This model of the 3510 series is in TT gauge and comes from the company Berliner TT-Bahnen from the former GDR. It is a true to original replica of the class 3510 of the Deutsche Reichsbahn and therewith a passenger locomotive with a tender. In the model, all wheel sets are driven. One wheel set with traction tires and ballast guarantees a high traction. The length over the buffers is 194 millimeters. The original name of the locomotive was Class 2310 of the Deutsche Reichsbahn. These were manufactured between 1956 and 59 by the locomotive building company called VEB Lokomotivbau Karl Marx in Babelsberg. It was the last newly developed steam locomotive of the Deutsche Reichsbahn, which was mainly used then to transport passengers, just as planned. The predecessor was the 23 series, which never actually went into production. Yes, it was planned as a replacement for the Prussian P8 and in order to be as flexible as possible and to be able to easily replace components, the locomotive was given exactly the same boiler as the Class 50 steam locomotives, which were developed in parallel, and just like this, it also received the same newly developed tender with a front wall. This had the advantage that the locomotive crew found appropriate protection when reversing. But that also means that apart from the chassis, all components were identical to those of the 50 series. It was in the end indeed a light passenger steam locomotive, of which 2 model locomotives were released in 1941. Yes, only 2. However, the additionally 800 planned were no longer produced due to the Second World War. After the end of the war, the GDR started production as 2310 series, but only after further development. In principle, only the dimensions of the drive and running gear were adopted in the end. In addition to welded sheet metal frames, the locomotives also got more modern boilers and larger driver's cabs. A total of 113 locomotives were manufactured within 4 years, with the first 2 being built in 1956 and 1957. The remaining 111 locomotives were then built in the following 2 years. And as proud as the GDR was of these long-awaited powerful locomotives, they were also rather expensive. Each individual locomotive cost the equivalent of 1.6 million German marks. With a length over the buffers of 22,660 millimeters, so almost 23 meters, and a service weight with a tender of over 150 tons, they reached maximum speeds of 110 kilometers per hour. Hence, they were used in both light and medium-heavy express train service, so it was all about the speed in the end. Then, with the introduction of the computerized numbering in 1970, they were redesignated as the 3510 series. However, after only 20 years of service, the last of this series was already retired in 1977. But not all were directly disassembled. For example, the locomotive 351113 was planned as a traditional locomotive. However, she was not able to enjoy her retirement for long. Due to the energy crisis at the beginning of the 1980s, she was actively used again from 1982 and transported numerous passenger trains until 1985. And today there are still 6 locomotives around. The one with the number 351113 is in the Deutsche Bahn Museum and is parked at the Steam Locomotive Interest Group in a city called Nossen.